On Wednesday, Doctors of the World Canada joined 16 humanitarian and human rights organizations calling for one thing: the immediate cease of direct and indirect transfer of arms, parts, and munitions to Israel and Palestinian armed groups. Joining us to tell us more is Nadja Pollaert, the General Director of Médecins, Monde, Canada. Nadja, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
You're most welcome.
So maybe first tell us more about what is Doctors of the World Canada.
So Doctors of the World is an international humanitarian organization, and our mission is to respond to health, the right to health for populations who are in need, who are vulnerable populations. So we are working here in Canada, specifically in Montreal, and also internationally in humanitarian projects.
Okay, so why this call at this point? Why is it fundamental to do what you've done along with 16 other humanitarian and human rights organizations?
So since the 7th of October, there has been a coalition launched internationally of NGOs and human rights organizations called Ceasefire Now. And as you remind, maybe there was the Security Council, many tries to have a decision on Gaza regarding the ceasefire. Nothing much happened because of the veto. Then there was the General Assembly of the United Nations voting in majority for a ceasefire. And finally, we had South Africa now submitting their case on allegations of genocide against Israel at the International Court of Justice. And so the idea really was to say states do have a responsibility, and this was before the ruling of this morning. So states do have a responsibility. And so we decided to join this international movement, but also to create a Canadian coalition of 6 Canadian NGOs working in Gaza and being present in Gaza. And our demand is that the government of Canada reviews the law, which is a quite important law in this context, which is the Export and Import Permits Act. And basically the demand is to say Israel is the second country where Canada exports, and there is a lot of arms exports. And so the government of Canada delivers permits for a Canadian private sector to sell their arms to Israel. And considering the situation right now with everything that is going on in Gaza, but also the West Bank, we believe that it's time to review the permits that have been issued.
I see. So there are Canadian companies right now exporting arms to Israel.
Yes.
And I see also that your call is for both sides. What about the Palestinian armed groups? You're also calling for them to stop having access to arms, or is it just Israel?
I think that from a humanitarian perspective, we would call on all parties to stop buying and selling arms. The difference between the Hamas and the government of Canada is that Hamas is an armed group. And for the government of Canada, first of all, we are NGOs based in Canada, and Canada has signed up to different international conventions, thus have their own national laws also to prevent eventual use of weapons and arms which are sold for, destruction and humanitarian issues. So that's why we call upon our government. But of course, we are not in favor of Hamas buying arms and people sending arms to Hamas.
Okay. Because you know where I'm going here. Obviously, devil's advocate will say, well, since the Canadian government authorizes the export of arms and it's all going to Israel, then you say, well, what about the other side? You know that that's going to be the response of a lot of people. Is there anything your group and the international effort? How do you stop, for example? Well, Iran apparently, making sure the Hamas is getting, a terrorist organization is getting arms. Is there some sort of worldwide effort to try to stop both sides from getting arms?
I think that your question is very pertinent. Unfortunately, I'm not the good person to respond because I'm an expert on weapons and arms and who's selling them.
Fair enough.
But I think the point is that what we heard this morning from the International Court of Justice is that the decision is not taken yet if there is a
Right.
genocide or not in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
It's not taken yet. It might be taken in several years. It's going to be a long run. But right now, what the court said, they were giving this morning provisional measures.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the provisional measures is to say there has to be a possibility to deliver humanitarian aid to the population in Gaza, considering all the terrible situation that has been going on, the fact that there are over 600 attacks by the Israeli army since the 7th of October. It's a graveyard for children, humanitarian workers, journalists. I mean, the situation from a humanitarian point of view is a disaster. So, and that's something that the court said this morning. One provisional measure is really the delivery of humanitarian aid. And to do so, there needs to be two main conditions reunited, and Israel needs to respect them, is access, and access is more than the border point in Rafah to get inside Gaza, and also a ceasefire, because if there is not a ceasefire, and that's not only Médecins du Monde, it's all humanitarian organizations who have been advocating for that, is to say we need a ceasefire to be able to work and to operate and to deliver aid. So from this point of view, the decision this morning was a positive decision for us. And so we are waiting for what's going to happen next. And also we are hoping that the Prime Minister of Canada, who said that he's respecting the court decision, is going to be proactive in enforcing it.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. Has your organization or your partner humanitarian organizations here in Canada, have you made any headway or have you had any communications with Canadian government officials on this?
So we have, of course, we're always, submitting our statement to the Canadian government. I think that's very important because the government takes the decision in democracy, and we want democracy. So we have been in touch with them, and we are waiting what is going to happen during the next weeks. So we have several discussions with the Canadian government.
All right. That's all the time I have, Nadja. I really appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend. Nadja Pollaert is the General Director of Médecins du Monde Canada. A very interesting position here. And it'll be what I will want to follow up on is seeing how the federal government is going to respond to this, because there's been a lot of ambiguity. Talking about the decision this morning, the preliminary decision. It's not a final decision by the International Court of Justice, but there's a preliminary finding this morning that's going to obviously influence the situation and Canada's position with regards of Israel and the conflict with Hamas in the Middle East. But this is another example that is going to have to force the Trudeau government to respond and clarify its position. Earlier this week, Anthony Housefather, the member of parliament from Mount Royal, the Liberal member of parliament from Mount Royal, told me straight up, I mean, he's not satisfied with the way the Trudeau government is responding to South Africa's case before the International Court of Justice, the lack of clarity or the ambiguity of Canada's position with regards to the claims by South Africa that what Israel is doing is akin to genocide. And so this is the type of gesture by NGOs here in Canada about the sale of arms that is going to yet again put the Trudeau government in a position where it's going to have to clarify it. At one point, you have to take sides. You can't play, you can't be in the gray area all the time. So it's going to be very interesting to see how and if the Canadian government is going to respond to this call from Doctors of the World Canada and other NGOs to limit or stop the sale of arms to Israel. Very interesting angle here. We'll see what happens.